Okay, class, technically I am not in the classroom today. However, I am on campus. I am working with Miss Whitley and Miss Doctor on a project that starts on Monday. But before I move on into the next lesson, again, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping rules for our class. The first one is that I want you to behave. You know what happens if I get a negative note from the substitute. The second thing is that I may probably most likely be in the empty room next door. So I will be very close. If I'm not there, I'm going to be up in the front office. So I will be very close in case the substitute has an issue with you. And I will be making rounds just to see how the class is behaving. Next thing is that we're going to go ahead and have a lesson first, and then you are going to take the quiz. By the time you take the quiz, that's when I'll come in and distribute the quiz and stay there until everyone is done. And I also want to say that you are still responsible for the material that I cover, whether it be in person or it be through this video, because either way, you still are receiving instruction from me. And then the next thing is, I know we discussed we would do a foldable today, but we'll go ahead and move that to later. We're going to do that other foldable later on. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and start off with your new set of notes, which is combination of functions, and basically we're talking about composite functions. And you've seen this before, I believe. You probably haven't worked much on it, but you have definitely seen it. And again, the same thing applies if you need the video to be paused or you need to go back and rewind. That's fine. Just let the substitute know, or someone in your class take the leadership position and go up there and rewind or pause it. I will tell you that this video is 30 minutes long. Most likely I'm going to have two videos. One is 15, the other will be 15 for a total of 30 minutes, followed by your quiz. So when I feel that 30 minutes have passed and it's time for your quiz, I do expect that both of these videos be complete or be viewed, because that's plenty amount of time for you to view it. So it really depends on how quickly your class comes in and starts working. So let's start with the notation for a composite function. It's in this form. So if you see it, it's function f composed by function g. The composed symbol is that little symbol right there. It looks like a degree symbol. Instead of making it as a superscript, we just have it in a linear form like this. So it's f composed by g of x. And that's the same thing as basically saying f of g of x. Now notice how the letters stay in the same order on both sides. F, G, X. F, G, X. Same thing. Okay? And basically, if you think about it this way, let me go ahead and write the sentence form. It's f composed by g of x equals f of g of x. And basically what a composite function is that you are combining a set of functions where the output of one becomes the input of another. So think about it this way. In real life, whether you are an architect or some kind of engineer or whatever profession, you most likely need to do some kind of unit conversion. You need to switch over into a different set of units. So for example, if I am walking or jogging and I know how many miles I've jogged and how many hours I've jogged, and I want to find the average speed but in feet per second, you're going to have to go through a series of unit conversions, because I know the miles and the hours, but I don't want that because I want the average speed in feet per second. So you're going to go through a lot of unit conversions to get to your answer, to your result. And that's exactly what a composite function is. It's basically creating or using the output of one function and then making that output into the input of another. So let's go ahead and start off with an example. You are given two functions. The first one is f of x equals the square root of x, and g of x is equal to x minus 1. Now, as a review for your quiz, if you notice this part right here, this parent function is a radical parent function. And this one right here happens to be a, what's the parent function of this one here? It's linear, right? Because it's a line. Okay, the question is find f of g of 2. Okay, now in a minute, I'm going to go ahead and move to a Word document so we can do this step by step. Okay, so let's go ahead and start it off. You know what your functions are. I hope you've written them down. So we have, let's see. The question is that we want to find f of g of 2. So this is basically f of g of 2. All right. So again, notice that the f composed by g of 2 is the same thing as saying this part right here. And we want to basically start off by using order of operations. So if you remember PEMDAS, that P stands for parentheses. So we want to take care of the inside of the parentheses, which says it is g of 2. So if you think about it, what does that basically mean? That means that we are going to go to my g function and plug in the value for 2 every time I see an x. So here we go. I'm going to still keep my outside part, which is f. Now, I am changing it to go to my g function, which is x minus 1. But now that x minus 1, let me type, actually, you know what? Let me type up the formulas here so you won't be confused. So here we have f of x is equal to square root of x and here we have g of x is equal to x minus 1. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. So basically I take my g of 2 and I'm going to plug it in here. Okay, so this is very simple to plug in. You're going to ask yourself, go to the g function, plug in 2 every time you see x. So 2 minus 1 is what? Okay, it's 1. So now this entire thing that's in yellow has now been replaced with the output that we got, which is 1. Great. Now, this one is asking you, go to your f function. So now, whatever output we got for here, it has now become an input for the f function. So it says, go to the f function and substitute the value 1 every time you see the x value. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so if I were to substitute in the value 1, we get the square root of 1, which is what? 1. Correct. So our official answer is 1. Now with combination of functions, you don't have to really worry about plus or minus when you are taking the square root. So make sure you remember that. You don't worry about plus or minus with these whenever you are taking the square root. Okay, so that would be our answer for that one. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. And right there you have the exact same situation. We started with g of x. It was done a little bit differently, but I don't like that way. I tried it and I didn't like it. So just do it my way because it works much better. All right, let's look at another example. I'm giving you two functions. Once again, f of x is equal to x plus 2. G of x is equal to 4 minus x squared. Now we're going to have to do two things here. We are going to have to do f composed by g of x, which is really the same thing as saying f of g of x. And then the second one is g of f of x. So take a couple seconds to write those two functions down, and I'm going to actually transfer it onto the Word document so we can actually do it step by step. Okay, all right, so let's do it. So now my f function has changed to x plus 2. And my g of x function has now changed to 4 minus x squared. So we have 4 minus and then x squared. Perfect. Now the first one, f composed by g of x, remember, think about it. You want everything to be in the same order. So the letters and everything will stay in the exact same order. So this is really f of g of x. That's what's really, for the first one, that's what's really changed to. Okay, so again, PEMDAS, start with order of operations. So you want to start with the inside, which is g of x. All right, so now I'm going to say f, and you know what g of x is. It's up here, and it's what? It's 4 minus x squared. Okay, so now I substitute that 4 minus x squared in place of g of x. Well, what is this saying right here? This is saying now you're going to go to your f function right here, and every time you see an x, you're going to have to plug in whatever is in here. So that's exactly what we are going to do. Here we go. Let's follow the process. Here's my f of x function. I see an x, so this time I have to substitute 4 minus x squared. I'll do that. Then I got to finish out the rest of the function. It says plus 2. Great. Okay, and then finally I collect like terms. The only thing I can collect is the 4 and the 2. So 4 plus 2 is 6. So I have 6 minus x squared. Okay, and that is my answer for that one. All right. Now let's do the other one. Now remember, the other one said g composed of f by x. So that one is really g of f of x. So look at your order of the letter, and that's how you can rewrite it. Okay, so let's not highlight. Okay, so let's now solve it. This is saying you're going to go to your f of x and substitute what you know. Okay, so here we go. So this has now become g of, what is f of x? Okay, it is x plus 2. Okay, so it's become x plus 2. And now this is telling you you're going to go to your g function this time, and every time you see an x, you're going to plug in an x plus 2. So let's do that. So equals, here we go. Let's follow the g function, 4 minus, okay, so we're going to rewrite that part, x squared. So I see an x, so that means I have to take this and substitute it. However, I have to also do what to it? I have to square it, because that's what my g function is telling me to do here. Now remember, let's analyze what's going to go on here. We're going to have to square this either by foiling, or if you know the shortcut, that's also fine. And then we're going to have to take care of this minus by distributing it to everything inside the parentheses. So let's do that. Okay, so let's continue. So I have 4 minus, I'm going to go ahead and square this part by using the shortcut.